The Black Consuls is one of the Imperium's oldest and most tenacious Space Marine chapters. They are the descendants of the Primark Guilliman and can trace their chapter's history back to the Great Crusade. Before the second founding even took place, the Battle Brothers that would become the Black Consuls made up the Ultramarine Legion's 72nd chapter. They were ubiquitous for their preference of massive drop-pod assaults. Records from that bygone age describe the terrible beauty of hundreds of screaming drop pods descending from the sky, ready to bring doom to the enemies of the Emperor, a tactic that is still favored by the Black Consuls today. From the Ultramarines Legion, Battle Brother Arias Cordos was selected as a Black Consul's first chapter master. Cordos was noted as being one of Guilliman's most valued counselors and had fought at the Primark's side on hundreds of planets, as well as being one of Guilliman's most trusted commanders, taking control of specialist units throughout the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy. Chapter Master Cordos exceeded the Master of Macragge's expectations and led many successful raids against the traitors after their chapter's founding. One of the most successful campaigns was known as the Cleansing of the Orb Star, which took place in the Orb Star system, and saw the forces of the Wordbearer Traitor Legion completely cleaned from the system by the newly black-clad chapter donning the chapter's badge of a large white eagle head centered on a field of black. Legends say that the chapter master single-handedly slaughtered dozens of Chaos Space Marines and eventually went head-to-head with the traitor Primark Lorgar himself. The full details of the confrontation are a mystery, but the chapter master was able to drive back the traitors with his legendary power axe and his ferocious spirit. The heroic deed earned the power axe the moniker Lorgar's Bane and solidified a historical rivalry between the Black Consuls and the Wordbearers. The chapter went on to become one of the Imperium's most reliable defenders in the region of space surrounding the Eye of Terror. As a fleet-based chapter, it patrolled the tumultuous territory alongside 20 of the other chapters that made up the Astarte Praesies. They created a strong culture that adhered to the dictates of the Codex Astarte and were viewed as a perfect model of what a Codex-compliant chapter should be. The Black Consuls would adopt the honored tradition of making a regular pilgrimage to the Shrine of the Primark on the planet of Macragge. This was the Ultramarines' most holy place, one that welcomed millions of pilgrims from all over the Imperium, not just the sons of Guilliman, but all those who wished to venerate the great Primark. The Shrine of the Primark lied within the Temple of Corrections, a building forming a part of the fortress of the Ultramarines in the northern lands of Macragge. The temple was a miracle of construction, typical of the attention to detail which the Ultramarines were known for. Its proportions defied the human mind by the scope and grandeur of the entire design. The multicolored glass dome that formed the roof was the largest of its kind. Even the techno-magi of the Adeptus Mechanicus would travel to marvel at the structure said to be designed by Guilliman himself. According to the Ultramarines, there was enough marble within the temple to build a mountain, and sufficient adamantium and shining plasteel to construct an entire war fleet. Within this edifice was the great marble throne of Guilliman, and upon the throne sat his regal corpse. His mortal remains were preserved from the ravages of time by a means of a stasis field, which isolated the Primark from the time stream. Everything encompassing the field was trapped in time, and could neither change nor decay. It was customary for each Black Consul to kneel in front of their progenitor, and meditate on the sacrifice one must endure in the name of the Emperor. The Black Consuls would adopt a combat strategy, where they would dispatch multiple specialized battle groups into as many different war zones as possible. These battle groups would range from a small kill team to a full battle company, a common practice designed to cover as much area as possible. This willingness to offer aid formed a strong bond between the chapter and many other Imperial forces. Eventually, tragedy struck the Black Consuls when the full 4th Company went missing during a warp jump. For 1,000 years, the fate of the Black Consuls' 4th Company remained a mystery, until the mid-37th millennium, when a mysterious Death Watch battle brother, bearing no chapter icon but calling himself Hale, arrived at Watch Fortress Arioch, asking for aid to recapture the remains of the vanished 4th Company of the Black Consuls. Following a meeting in the Chamber of Vigilance, it was agreed upon to send a kill team with Hale aboard his rapid strike vessel, Unquiet Angel, to the location of the Black Consuls. This location was a drifting space hulk at the edge of the Phages system. The kill team had to fight through warp ghouls and many other warp entities that inhabited the vessel, but they were successful in recapturing the 4th Company's banner and a number of chapter relics. In gratitude for the recovery of their fellow battle brothers' remains, the Black Consuls renewed their oath to the Death Watch and pledged to send 3 times the previous number of Astartes into the Death Watch services, more so than the chapter had before. It is believed that one of the Black Consuls brought with them Lorgar's Bane, one of the chapter's holiest relics, which still resides within Watch Fortress Arioch. The Black Consuls would go on to battle on Valerius Majoris against a worldwide uprising of the powerful prophetess and her chaos cult. They would successfully pacify the planet and burn the heretical witch. A millennia later, records report that a demonic servant of Tzeentch created a warp rift inside each of the twin sons of Harrock. Leering faces formed upon the stars and drove the entire population of the system insane. But the demonic celestial bodies eventually caused themselves to go dual nova as they began to argue with each other. Within a couple of hours, the entire system would be wiped clean of life. But before that could happen, the Black Consuls had to recover the system's many sacred relics that dated back to the time of their founding. Strikeforce Ultra Volnor, led by Captain Volnor, was tasked with butchering their way through the demons, madmen, and billions of doomed souls in order to rescue these relics from the burning cities. The Black Consuls were successful, but the entire system was completely annihilated. The chapter would suffer another terrible tragedy when their spaceborne fortress monastery, the Noctis Obscurum, was destroyed in the 40th millennium. The culprits were a band of Dark Eldar, which pushed the Black Consuls to relocate to the planet of Cyclopia in the Glixis sector. And in retaliation, the chapter went on a 300-year xenocidal purge throughout 15 star systems, and eventually collapsed an entire subdimension of the webway, thought to be where the Dark Eldar originated from. Unfortunately for the chapter, a millennia later, a terrible campaign against the Wordbearers and the Iron Warriors Traitor Legion occurred in their home system, known as the Siege of Godith Hive. It saw the Black Consuls nearly annihilated. Reports that made it back to Terra claimed that the traitors were nearly defeated. However, a few Iron Warriors were able to gain access to the nucleoid stacks of the Hive planet. They detonated the entire thing, basically vaporizing the complete North Continent and the majority of the chapter. It was thought that this was the end of the Black Consuls. However, because the chapter was well known for dispersing their chapter into battle groups throughout the galaxy, it is believed that a good portion of the chapter was not participating in the siege and would go on to reconstitute itself after the tragedy. This is reinforced by multiple reports of Black Consul battle groups participating in the Aculus Crusade before and after the siege of Godith Hive. It is also noted that upon hearing of the supposed demise of their chapter, the remaining Black Consuls participating in the crusade were allowed to send one battle brother to investigate the truth of the chapter's fate. The remainder of the Black Consuls would fulfill their binding oath to serve the crusade until their lone battle brother would return with news. For 250 standard years, the survivors continued to fight to the death, and no word of the whereabouts of the lone battle brother or the fate of the chapter was ever heard. As their numbers dwindled due to attrition, the Black Consuls accepted the fact that they might be the very last of their chapter. Back on Terra, multiple reports began to filter in on various Black Consul strike cruisers, launching intervention assaults on the beleaguered Imperial forces all throughout the Segmentum Pacificus, solidifying the fact that the chapter was not completely destroyed, and those fighting in the Aculus Crusade were not the only survivors. Somehow, the Black Consuls managed to send 4 companies to Cadia during Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade. And although they suffered tremendous casualties, the chapter would successfully defend Khazard Trench until the entire planet was destroyed at the end of the assault. The severely depleted Black Consuls refused to stop fighting, even after the Great Rift effectively tore the Imperium in half. Truly close to death, the chapter received aid from their resurrected progenitor when Guilliman replenished the chapter's ranks with hundreds of newly created Primaris Marines. The newly strengthened Black Consuls chapter is unleashing the Emperor's wrath throughout the Segmentum Pacificus, Obscurus, and the Ultima Segmenta. The Black Consuls are a really good example of how you could take a Space Marine chapter and then just plop them into different war zones throughout the galaxy. You don't have to be limited to a certain segmentum, you don't have to be limited to a certain region. Even if you have a fortress monastery on a planet, or you have a crusading fleet, you could still send various sections of a chapter into different parts of the galaxy against different foes. This is for like when you're building your own homebrew chapter. Remember that a chapter is made up of 10 companies. Each company is made up of 100 battle brothers plus dreadnoughts plus vehicles and all that kind of stuff. So you have a lot of room to say like this company went to do this company went to do that, and then you just add on the fact that like time and space is kind of different in the warp, and you have an entire timeline. You can really build a really badass chapter with examples from the Black Consuls. If you need help, again, there is a 40 facts video on creating a homebrew chapter. I suggest you check it out. I'll link it at the top of this video. If you have any suggestions for other topics of Warhammer 40K, please let me know in the comment section below. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.
Oh, I used to put my freedom first.